Hey, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the Ethos Village webinar, another one of these monthly discussions that are brought up and topics thrown out there for all of us to learn from. And of course, we've got a great panel assembled for all of you tonight that we're going to tap into their expertise and knowledge and experiences. The topic on the table tonight is learning through wins and losses. And let me introduce the people who are on the panel and get that started for you right now. Mr. Eric Goodwin, the Director of Business Development at the C1S Group. Hello, Eric.
Hello.
Ms. Kobe Wu, the founder and CEO of Visual Technologies. Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, an All-Pro in the NFL, and still looks like he can get a couple pass rushes in, that's for sure. Michael Davis, the Ethos CEO and President, and also former college football player, and I don't want to upset him as well. I'll get hit a lot tonight. Tim Brown, our Hall of Fame football player and successful business person. And we're still waiting, I believe Everson Walls will probably join us in progress, probably getting in one more pass coverage and interception before he shows up. My name is Charles Davis. I'm the moderator for tonight, and we'll try and keep this thing moving along. But bottom line, as we get started, panel, thank you first and foremost for being here. Thank you for giving your time and your expertise. And I'm going to start with you, Ms. Wu. When we talk about learning through wins and losses, most people love to talk about their wins, minimize their losses, but I do believe both of them are valuable tools for us. Why don't you get us started with an opening statement, and we'll hit around the horn with everyone with their opening thoughts before we move on.
Well, isn't it fun to start off with the losses? The thing about losing is being able to be resilient enough to, figure out why you lost. Like, what's the reason? What's the option, right? There's options in every loss. Which path you're going to take after that? For me, losses usually means, taking it hard, taking it seriously for a minute, and then figuring out the next step. And usually the next step is a big giant step past that loss, either in another direction or onto something better.
Mr. Eric Goodwin, your opening statement, please.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's, like you said, a lot of people want to take advantage of the wins and really dive into those. I think you need to look at those just as well as you do the losses. And on the losses, I think are really some of the most beautiful things you can come across as far as those learning steps. And really, when we go to lose, it doesn't mean if it's business, sports, life in general. Typically what it is, the way I've looked at it, is it's really about just not quite being prepared as much as you thought you were when you went into that event that you may have lost at for whatever it is. So, really it's just, educating yourself, knowing your competition, and just really keeping a positive attitude through all of it. You need to take every bit and piece you can just to grow and learn from it as you move forward.
Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, rocking that Cal Golden Bears hat.
Always got to rock it.
Before we go farther, let me tell you how old I am. I called some of your games in college.
Right.
Before we got to the NFL. So I am OLD. Go ahead, Mr. Alexander.
Well, I appreciate that, because I've been being called OLD for the last, maybe 5-6 years of my career up in Buffalo. So I appreciate that. And it's been a privilege, obviously, working with you through the years. But, most of my coaches have always said that it's better to learn in a win versus a loss. And I think there's some truth to that. But as in regard to losing, I think it keeps us grounded, humble. I know in my own personal experiences, there normally was a common thread in my losses, whether it had to do with ego, lack of preparation, and those things kept coming up until I was able to fix it. And so for me, the losses was a great reminder of not allowing myself to get too high or feel myself too much, especially in the realm of football. And even in this given Sunday, you could easily find yourself being embarrassed or losing, obviously in the national spotlight when you got high like that or had an ego. And so for the losses for me really kept me humble and grounded, making sure that I always stay prepared, because I never want to have that feeling, especially in a public venue as the NFL provides.
Mr. Tim Brown.
Hey, yeah. Well, look, my story is pretty well documented, but I mean, it's because of a loss that I won the Heisman Trophy. The very first time I touched the ball in college, I fumbled the opening kickoff, and set the bar pretty low, I guess. But but I never wanted that feeling again. And to my brother's point, I had to get a win in that game. In that game, I think if I'd have left that game without getting a win, it would have been tough for me. And I was able to get in, snuck in. Actually, I wasn't supposed to be in, but I got in. And quarterback threw me a pass, tough catch. I made the catch. Enabled us to go and put points on the board. That transition from that loss to that win told me that I could play this game at the college level. And it's because of that I believe I was able to go on and do what I did in college.
I remember watching you actually win the Heisman against Michigan State, I believe, with two big returns on a ball game. I believe it was a night game. And from that moment on, you were the front runner. So you transitioned pretty well, I would say. Mr. Michael Davis, CEO, president of Ethos. Not only do I need an opening statement from you, why this topic tonight? Why learning through wins and losses?
I think it touches a point that we talk about ethos around a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I think in having this growth mindset, that's where you actually can learn from these losses, understand that I can get better each and every day. From the fixed mindset, we don't learn a lot of things from our losses. We kind of pout. We kind of do the same things over and over and over as far as the losses, and it kind of becomes repetitive, like Zoe talked about. And with the fix, or at least for the growth mindset, you can kind of walk yourself outside of that and say, how do I improve? What did I learn from that loss? How can I go ahead and improve and get better the next time? And so I think a lot of our kids, we want them to walk through life with the growth mindset to be able to get better each and every day. So that's really why we wanted to talk about this subject and making sure that we understand what's the power of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset.
Fantastic. Ms. Wu, I mean, you're the founder CEO of your own business, your own company. Okay. So this doesn't just happen by you wake up in the morning and you go, guess what? I'm running my own company and I'm doing this. What got you there? Was there a certain event? Were there multiple events? Some of the things that took you to where you are today? Because as I said, we all like to roll out of bed and think it's going to happen, but you got to battle to get to where you are.
Facts, all of that, very true. I think, one thing that's important to kind of, establish here, at least in the commonalities of the group on this screen, is all of y'all live in the professional or, sports world. I played sports in high school for sure. And that team, effort really did help me understand how to recover from losses, how to actually position yourself so that you're better in the next game, or maybe just get well rested so that you can recalibrate and be prepared for the next thing. And I take all of that training from sports and playing on teams and even on playing against myself to be able to build this business, and in building the business, I took a lot of hits. I had to learn a lot. I've been told no many more times than I've been told yes, and you establish that kind of cadence when you're working through business. If you need funding, you're going to ask 100 investors and maybe 2 will say yes. But guess what? You only need that one. Just like Tim, who got the Heisman off of a loss, that all you need is that one, And so when you're ready for that one opportunity, that's when you can start to build the foundation of a business. That's when you can start to say, okay, I'm ready to take that next meeting. I'm ready to, present and get that first client because I have been out here doing the work. I've trained myself, I don't just take for granted that I get a meeting. That's a win in and of itself. But when you actually are prepared for the questions that come after you present, when you're actually ready for the numbers that they're asking for, if you're ready for that, you're in the game. You're definitely in the game. Can you be better for the next meeting? Absolutely. Can you learn from the questions that they're asking? Absolutely. And you learn all of that frankly, you get that conditioning and training playing sports. If I'm thinking about it properly and comprehensively, and I think that that's something that anybody who wants to start a business, you start to really look at the skills that you have and figure out how to, mount that and create momentum for yourself at whatever pace that is, right? You don't have to compare yourself to the next person. You have to be the best at what you do. So that's all encompassing when it comes to building the business, and what I've taken and have to deal with even now, owning the business for 6 years, So I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's great stuff. And Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, I want to play off of that, because as someone who watched your career grow on the field, and I don't want to just leave it as simply, hey, Lorenzo Alexander, football player, there's a lot more to you. But I think for purposes of what Ms. Wu was just talking about, your success in terms of on the field as a defensive player, taking snaps down after down, came later in your career.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you weren't ready for it earlier in your career, but people saw you in different roles, and you were one of the top special teams players in the NFL. You kept yourself ready. So when that time came, it wasn't, I have to get ready. You were already prepared. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I was undrafted out of Cal. Team didn't pick me up. Got cut several times early in my career, was on practice squad, and had to find a niche for myself. And through that time, I had a lot of great teammates and coaches really helped develop me on and off the field as a man and as a football player. And I used to have a coach, Danny Smith, who's a current special teams coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who used to always say, you're going to get your opportunity. It's whether or not you're going to be ready for it or not. What type of exposure do you want to have, positive or negative? And so even though I wasn't playing defense, even though I wasn't playing all the special teams when I first got to the Washington football team, was on their practice squad, I went to all the meetings for special teams. I wasn't required, but I wanted to go so I could learn, educate, and hopefully find an opportunity where I could get in and make a name for myself. And that occurred for me in 2007 when I finally made the team and got a chance to play special teams. A guy got hurt on punt, ended up having 4 tackles that game, and never looked back after that time. But if I hadn't sat in those meetings, if I wasn't productive, if I wasn't tuned in, even though I didn't want to be on the practice squad, I wouldn't have been able to take full advantage. I worked while I waited. And that was my whole mindset, is that whenever I got my opportunity, I was going to be well prepared for it and go out there and shine, because in the NFL and most of the time in any business, any field, that you're only going to get one opportunity to show people who you are and what you're capable of. If you don't produce in this world where everything is, microwave, you need to be ready right now, you may not get a second chance. And so definitely take that time when you are working for that opportunity to take advantage of it. And to your point, as far as defense, I carved out a niche as a special teams guy for the majority of my career. And it really wasn't until I got to Buffalo. And again, a guy got injured. They decided to cut another guy. And here's my opportunity to start every single play, every single down. And all those years working up to that point, always learning from guys like London Fletcher, Brian Arakpo, Chris Samuels. I just had a lot of great human beings in my life that played the game at a high level. I was able to show out, get 12 and a half sacks, and people are like, well, where did you come from? I was always here. I just didn't have the opportunity to shine in this way, and so it was really cool to be able to do that. But, just making sure that you work while you wait, because you just never know when that opportunity is going to come. And it's not going to always be ideal for you either when you start out. You have to grind. You have to start from the bottom up. Ain't too many people just drop in and the CEO of their company and just run the show. Ain't too many people just dropped in and, the starting quarterback or this Hall of Fame player. There's a process, there's a story, there's a grind behind every single one of those individuals. They just worked while they waited.
Mr. Eric Goodwin, do you relate to that at all on the business side? Because what he just talked about, when I actually worked for a living, because at one point I actually worked for a living. I know it's hard for people to imagine, but I actually had jobs, like real jobs like you guys have, okay? And what I discovered was youngsters coming in, and I know I'm going to sound like my great-grandfather right now, but they would walk in, and like a week after they were working with me, they were like, so, when do I get the corner office? And you're like, there's, Lorenzo just talked about, there's a grind to it. What have you seen along the way and that you can relate and try and tell people out there about trying to aspire to the positions everyone on this panel has achieved?
No, I definitely agree, especially what Lorenzo just said. I didn't get to where I am just falling into it. And, I started in industry 21 years ago, and I started at the very bottom. And it was construction industry. Started off stripping and marking cylinders back when we still used sulfur to do things. And a week into it, I was like, I'm in a metal building in Texas in the middle of August. I'm going to be dealing with concrete all day long, 10 hours a day. I want to get into the AC, see what they do. And it's definitely, Lorenzo put it great. It's about the grind. It's about working. It's about obtaining what's ahead. Everybody can. It's always within their reach. It's about, just preparing yourself, and it's challenging yourself. It's not easy. It's not easy in business, sports, or anything just to jump in that next level. And, it's going home, preparing yourself, studying. It's spending extra hours on the practice field. Those things happen, watching tape, all of it, and even like Kobe said, I'm in business development. So I definitely understand where Kobe, Michael sit, and even Tim with his business, everyone's business here, where, for every 1 to 2 yeses you get, that's 1 to 2% that you're getting a yes out of all those no's you got. But you know what? That's what keeps everybody going. That's the part that drives me. It's, tell me no, so I got to go back and do my homework how to get that yes next time. And it's, just challenge yourself. That's the biggest thing I can tell anybody who's on, this video conference we're doing, anybody's just sitting back watching. And Michael and I, we talk all the time. It's, you tell the kids, challenge yourself, don't quit, and always ask questions. Do not ever want to be or expect to be the smartest person in your audience. Always want to challenge yourself, always want to strive to be around people that are smarter than you, work harder than you. And I've always tried to do that to push myself to the next level. And that just keeps you from becoming complacent.
Absolutely. And what I love about what you just said is we all have lofty goals, right? We all want to run stuff. So Michael Davis, you just heard what Mr. Goodwin talked about. His goal was to get some air conditioning. Okay? and we're laughing, but think about it now. He's in there putting in the grind.
Right.
And he says to himself, I want something different. What do I have to do to get there? So the goals are always different, but yet they are important, because he's not sitting where he's sitting right now if he said, well, I'm just going to sit here and sweat.
Absolutely. No, I hear you. That's right on point. I think you have to set up your goals, obviously, to set yourself in a position to want to win. You got to be able to visualize. Again, we talked about this last month in regards to the grind, and be able to see yourself achieving these goals that you set forth. And I think the thing I like to bring up in this point is, I think these character traits that you learn as you take these L's are transferable. So this element of commitment and fortitude, those are learned really by the L's that we took. And those things carry over from football to corporate America to nonprofits to being a husband, being a wife, being a dad, being a mom. All those things come from that grind. But the traits are what allows it to carry over into different lifestyles, different occupations. So it's not the occupation that's going to make you successful. It's these character traits that you learn during this grind, during this journey. And so that's the element that we like to teach the kids. We always talk about the element like, oh man, you played for this team, or like, no, I got cut, but I got my degree and I went on and got my master's, and I learned through that process of these transferable character traits that allowed me to be successful. The mindset around it, and having that growth mindset that I get excited when I take an L. Like, what do you mean? Why are you excited about taking an L? Like, I'm excited because I'm going to be a better individual when this is all said and done. Versus when I won, I'm going to be a little bit more complacent, like Zoe talked about. I may not work as hard. Until I get that huge L to make me stop and reflect and say, whoa, okay, let me reanalyze, recalibrate, as Kobe talked about, and say, okay, what did I not do right? What can I learn? What's the transferable, character traits here that I can go ahead and press upon, or maybe I don't have them yet. Maybe I don't know how to persevere. Maybe I don't know how to be committed. Maybe I don't know how to be consistent. And so those are the elements that I think when you talk about setting those goals and wanting the air condition, as my man said, you got to go through that process with that grind.
Tim Brown, you talked about dropping that kickoff and having to get right again. But, with your story, I think a lot of people would struggle to even imagine that. What they see are Notre Dame, All-American, Heisman Trophy winner, first-round draft choice, All-Pro, eventually Pro Football Hall of Fame, not to mention College Football Hall of Fame. All they see is Tim Brown making it. Tim Brown doing it. Sometimes people like you who are at the top of the food chain, people forget it's a challenge every day because people come at you. Mm-hmm. Different things come at you because you are at the top of it. There's a grind associated with that as well, correct?
Without a doubt, Charles. And let's I think we all can agree on that. We can talk about the losses, but we wouldn't be here if we had a whole bunch of L's on our register, right? At some point, this thing has to be about the wins, right? It has to be about, getting yourself in order, getting your grind on, as we've said, and now you should be able to move forward. I mean, yes, you're going to have some little L's, but you can't have multiple L's coming time and time again. Right? Because if that's the case, I'll be on the other side of this doggone speech right now, So I think that was my thing, man, was I didn't know what my NFL career, I tore my knee up my second year. Doctors were saying, hey, we don't know what's going to happen with you. But I knew this. I knew I was ready to get back into the grind. I knew I wanted to give it everything I had to see what was going to come of it. And what came of it was another 15 years in the NFL. But at some point we have to be able to turn the corner here with our losses. I know guys who constantly talking about, everything that's going wrong for them, going wrong. Well, brother, I think we need to change something. We could talk about the world, we could talk about this and that, but at some point you got to change what you're doing if you're constantly running into L's, L after L after L. So for me, yes, my career ended up being more than I could have ever dreamt, without a doubt. But it's not because, I had some little setbacks in there. I made sure even when people were patting me on the back, I would look at the film and go, no, I can be better there. I must be better there if I want to, keep my place in the NFL or whatever you want to say. And, the one thing about success is you never want to fail after that. You don't want the failures because you're so used to the highs. When the lows come, sometimes they can become, too low. So my grind was probably more than other people. Guys, when I go to the Raiders game now, all the old guys who are there, who I played with, they're constantly saying things like, well, Tim, we couldn't have done it like you did it. Yeah, I just stayed home at night. Yes, you could have, because it was that important to me to make sure the next day I was going to be able to practice right, or I was going to be able to play that game right. So, but it's all about what you want to give up for what you're trying to achieve. If you're really trying to achieve something big, then you're going to be willing to give up something big.
So in other words, not like one of the all-time great Raiders, Kenny Stabler. You didn't study your playbook by the light of the jukebox.
That's exactly right. Those guys did it the hard way, man. I was with Ted Hendricks last night and Tom Flores. Yeah, man, you hear some of these stories, you're like, how did you guys ever play football, But some kind of way those old guys got it done.
No doubt about it. Ms. Wu, I want to play off of what Tim was just talking about. It's easy for us to point to the L's that have motivated us and got us there and the whole deal. But as Tim said, there's a whole lot of W's. Otherwise, we're not here having this discussion. Take us to the W's for you and how, as we say in the NFL, in the sports world, now that you're getting a lot of W's, you don't take the cheese, meaning you don't jump into the trap of, hey, I've gotten complacent, I've gotten comfortable. You're still out to figure out a way to achieve. Take us to the W side, please.
I think there's a physical tactic in sports that happens in basketball, which is what I played, happens in volleyball, which is what I played, happens in football, which I watch. I have not played, but it's the pivot. It is the pivot, right? It is knowing that is not the move right there. We're gonna go this way. That's not working. We have to go this way. And, that's how you get the win, right? You're going to bump into stuff. You're going to like see things not working. You're going to feel really bad because that's what you really thought you wanted. But if you can, look up, and that is key, right? Like as an athlete, as a business person, if you put your head down, you're going to lose track of where you're trying to go. You have to keep your eyes up and make sure you know where you're trying to get to, because the way to get there is not just singular. There's always different paths to get to where you're trying to go. And that's how you start to see the wins, right? It might look completely different, or it might be completely unexpected in the path that you thought you were going to take when you end up going, when you make that pivot and you go in the other direction. And I'll tell you, in business, it's happened a lot for me, right? My company is, I thought I was going to go in a direction with advertising and, marketing and all that good stuff. I actually thought I was going to be a CMO of somebody else's company. Let me fix that, right? I got this entrepreneurial bug. I tried setting up this business, and I said, let me just try this. Got told no so many times when I tried it. I was like, okay, wait. let me just think this through. Surely I'm not totally silly for having thought I could pull this off, right? Let's just sit back. Let's recalibrate, pivot a little bit, figure out, what's going to work, and take baby steps. Like go back to the fundamentals. Stop trying to rush everything. Just start with what you know and build the foundation for the business. Build the foundation for that new job, right? Build the foundation for whatever new position you're playing. You have to kind of start with what you know. You can easily start to pivot once you recalibrate and recall the things that got you to the point where you thought you were going to go. If that's not working, let's just go back a little bit and let's start again. And that's something that I do almost every day because I hit a wall almost every day. And you have to kind of say, all right, maybe I need a rest. Let me just sleep on this, because it's amazing what, not thinking about something will do. If you can just release it for a few hours or even a day or maybe a weekend, or maybe it has to be a month. Hell, it might need to be a year. Just sit tight and think it through and give yourself the chance to breathe new ideas into what you think your goals are, right? And I would just rest on when you know that there's an end goal, when you can see yourself doing it. Surely you've got 5, 6, maybe even 100 different moves to get there, So I'll leave it at that.
That's good stuff. And I like the pivot because,
Like that.
Yeah, now that you were a basketball player, you can pivot and get away with traveling nowadays. This is a whole different ball game. But
I don't know about the youngsters. Listen, I've got a young face, but it's a different time.
I mean, every time I turn it on now, it's 4 steps to the hoop and the whole thing. So that used to be Michael Jordan got 4. Now everybody's getting 4. But that's a whole nother story. We'll move on from there. I want to jump Michael Davis. You just heard Ms. Wu talk about belief. There's a belief in self. Seeing it, even though the no's keep coming, she saw where she wanted to go. And then with a pivot, bam, backdoor dunk. Does that sound familiar to you with organizing Ethos and seeing it? You saw different things. Was this what you saw? And was there a pivot in there to get you to this?
No, I didn't see this at all. I didn't see this at all. I would like to take all the full credit, like, I saw this happening this way and that way, and then voila, Ethos Village. Nah, not at all. It's like Kobe talked about, a lot of pause, a lot of recalibration, just taking a break. I think that was a good point that she brought up. I mean, taking a break doesn't mean you're quitting. Taking a break just means you got to catch your breath. You got to, like she said, you got to pivot, and then see where I go next. And so many things with Ethos, different things happen in different ways. I mean, we didn't see certain elements come our way, but we had to be in position to take advantage of it. And so to not be in position is to me is not being in a position where we learned from our losses prior to putting ourselves in that position to win. So if I didn't learn from these losses and I can pivot and take a break, I wasn't prepared to jump on whatever opportunity came my way when that thing actually came. So if I wasn't in a mindset where I could be open-minded, that I didn't give up on myself, didn't give up on our team, and see it for what it was really worth based on a small opportunity and say, okay, what does this actually mean? Let me kind of put this in this puzzle piece. Oh, I didn't see that. Now connects. So just being open-minded in the process, I think, is huge. But to clear your mind to be able to do that, I think is important. And that's where I think she was talking about really just taking a step back, having people around you in your village to say, hey, help me see something here. Maybe I'm missing something, because you're so connected to it. You're taking these L's, you're taking these wins, what have you. You start to doubt yourself. And I think when you have people around you that really have your back, that really can say, you know what, I believe in you. Even we had Dr. Bob Kramer. A lot of people that are part of Ethos understand who Dr. Bob Kramer was. He was my mentor. He was a father I never had. And he was a guy that would not let me quit on myself. I said, Dr. Bob, I'm done with this Ethos thing. I can't do it. He said, no. We don't quit. We don't, no. Let's sit back together and work on a strategy, right? So having somebody lift you and somebody that you can lean on, I think is also important in the journey. So we can't do it by ourselves. That's what I've learned in this process. There's other people that have skill sets that you have to rely on and trust. But he was a person that really put energy back into us as an organization to say, listen, I have you. I'm not going to let you fall. And I think that's so important when you talk about a village. Again, to be able to trust one another, trust yourself, so you don't put yourself in a position where you just give up. Because it's the reason why I think we're all here is that we just kept going. I think, the easy thing is just to stop, and then that's when you realize you're lost. Now you really realize all those things, and now you're done. But if you keep going, it's not realized. We talk about that in investing, right? You take a loss on paper, but it's not realized until you stop or until you sell your position. So we didn't sell out. We didn't sell and stop. And I think that's the other element too, is that you can continue to go forward, learn from these losses, and just put yourself in position to win.
Mr. Eric Goodwin, we joked a little bit about you getting out of the heat and into the AC, but it was a real thing. Like, it's a funny line, but it's real because you had a goal, because you saw yourself doing other things and having an impact in different ways as you were making your way there, right? Okay, so the first thing is to get out of this. I want to get to that. Belief in self. What got you there? What were the things along the way? Was there a village there for you? Were you working as an individual? How did you make it?
I think it was a little bit of both. I found out early on it was for myself and doing it on my own. So I transitioned from one company to another, where there was a village and there were people there to mentor and help out. It later caused me to move out of Fort Worth, where I grew up, move to a place on my own down in Houston, open an office, and then later go on and have the opportunity to start a company. So it's part of just giving up. And one of the things I tell people too, somebody told me years and years ago, do not be afraid to incorporate the word yet into your vocabulary. When we talk about wins and losses, it's just that win's just not yet there that you may be looking for, that you think you stumbled upon. It's just, you keep working. It's everything we do. But, really, Big Mike's point, it is a village. I mean, it's leaning on people. It's asking those questions. It's, you're scratching your head about things. It's leaning on the peers, other people that have been in your shoes before, people that you want to strive to be around. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I've always strived to be around people that have succeeded to the level or past the level that is my next step. And it's knowing that goals it's like a stepping stairs. Don't put them too far out in front of you to where you can't grab them. Just bite them by little steps. It's just little bites of the game that would go on to get to the end result.
I love it.
I would definitely build a good team around you. That's a big one. Build a good support staff.
I like that. Mr. Alexander, Lorenzo Alexander, along the way, what kept you going? People kept telling you no. People kept telling you this wasn't going to work. You were on practice squads. You were getting cut by teams in the league. They were telling you, and I'm sure there were people in your life saying, yo, man, it's time to transition to something else. What kept you going that you saw said, I'm going to get that W?
Yeah, for me, it was my mom and my uncle, because I was actually one of the people saying, like, I was done with this. Obviously, I'm repping the Cal hat, went to Cal 4 years, graduated, had my degree. Early on in my career, being cut, undrafted. Then you have to do this, you got to fly to each city, do workouts. And that was like, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. And so I was actually thinking about making a pivot early in my career. And then my mom and my uncle really encouraged me to kind of stay the course, give it more time. I was being impatient. And really, as I look back, it wasn't that long. While I was in it, it felt like forever, but it was really only like maybe 2 months that I was kind of doing that process of traveling around and looking back at it now. Guys do that for 2 or 3 years, before they maybe catch on or decide to walk away, where I was just really being impatient. So they helped me kind of get out of my emotions a little bit, right? Because most of us have been that dude, that girl, the apex predator on the court. Now I'm being told you're not good enough, being cut. I'm like, I want to move away from that uneasy feeling, right? It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. Let me get away from it. But my mom and my uncle pushed me towards it. And fortunately, that next workout after I had the conversation with them, I ended up in Washington and was able to create a 7-year career there and never look back. So just having those people that believe in you, that can see things outside of that you can't see yourself, and then have a little bit of wisdom to them, right? Being 23, 24 at the time, didn't have a lot of life experience. I hadn't had a lot of adversity in my life, and my mom and my uncle had. And so they understood what was on the other side of hard, right? We hear that term. They knew some success was there, and they knew that I had the ability to do it. And that's why it's so important that we have those people in our lives, because we all, our natural knee-jerk reaction, because of the flesh is weak, is to move away from hard and tough. Let me get away. Where's the easy way? Whatever that may look like in your life. And so make sure you have the people that's going to push you through hard so that you can reap the reward on the other side.
And you got to make sure that that when they do push you, that you respond the right way, don't you? Like, a lot of people are pushed, and as you said, they're like, forget that, and they continue the easy way, right?
Well, yeah, you got to be receptive to it. Obviously, I had a relationship with my mom and my uncle. My uncle coached me throughout my career, and so I trusted them, and I believed in what they were saying. It wasn't just a random person or a coach that I didn't have a relationship with. Those were people that were near dear to my heart. So yeah, you do have to have those people. Then you also have to be, to your point, humble enough and open enough and vulnerable enough to allow their words to guide you, and trust that, because those individuals, you put them there for a reason. So rely on that information, rely on their wisdom, because oftentimes they're seeing things from a different perspective, a different lens, because they're not in their emotions like you are at the current time.
Mr. Tim Brown, you talked about, hey, you went home at night because you were trying to get right for the next day and get better each and every day and doing what you're doing. But I'm quite sure along the way you saw teammates, people in your life, people around that said they got to a certain level, and that was good enough for them, even though there were more levels to go to. Hey, I'm good right here. All I'm trying to do is protect this spot, and getting higher is no big deal. But I don't want to get any lower. I just want to stay right here. What do you say to those people when there's a chance to, you got a chance to do more? How do you motivate? How do you find your way through?
I was in Oakland. I was in Vegas over the weekend, and they were honoring Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
Charles Woodson would tell you that his first 6-7 years of the league, if he could do it all over again, he would do it over again. Because his dedication to the game was not there. But he was so talented. He was still making Pro Bowls. But we knew, as his teammate, watching him come to practice and not basically be able to practice because of what he had done the night before, and things of that nature that, my God, if this guy would ever dedicate himself, he would be the best, this game has ever heard of, And it took him getting cut from the Raiders. And he'll tell you the story that he went home thinking, oh yeah, come on in. All the calls about to come now. I'm about to pick who I'm going to go play with. And he got 2 calls. One was from Tampa Bay saying, we don't want you to play cornerback anymore. We want you to play safety. And the other one was from Green Bay. And he did not want to go to Green Bay after, but it was because of that transition, he understood, man, I have to do something different. I have to, if I'm going to be the player that I want to be, if I'm going to be the Hall of Fame player that everybody said I should be, then I got to change everything. And it's because he changed, he was able to play 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more years in the league after that, man. And even coming back and finishing with the Raiders. So, look, at some point, man, we have to understand what we are and who we are and what talent we have. There are certain guys that I played with, they did the best that they could do. That was all they had, and they got the best out of it. I played with a guy, James Jett, 5'9", 155 pounds, ran a 4.140, but James got 10 years in the league, man. That was all he could do. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to name some of the players who could have got more, but there were, Lorenzo, no, you can see it, man. But it's the same thing in business. I have a company now. You can tell the people who want to work and the people who don't want to work. You can tell the people who are going to be in that same position 10 years from now, if we allow them to. And you can tell the people who are going to go past these people in a lickety split because they want it. They want to do something different. They want to do something big. But, that's something down inside that you can't put inside of people, right? So when I saw teammates, who were going that route, look, sometimes I went to guys and, hey, look, man, if you want to get out of here, let me know. You know what I mean? Because maybe I can help you, hit the door, And, sometimes that got guys to think, man, this guy here crazy. But it's not about being crazy. It's about, man, we trying to put something together that we can go out and win a championship. And if you're not going to be a part of that, then, hit the road, bro. Maybe you could go find another place and do what you need to do. So, it's a difficult thing, and on one side where you have to be so careful about what you say to guys in the locker room and how you deal with them. But if you have the respect of those guys and they know that you're not all about yourself or you're about the team, they're willing to listen to you. And many times you were able to get guys to change enough to get through the season. But you're never going to be able to get guys to change what's in their heart, and that's something totally different.
In the position you're in, Mr. Goodwin, Mr. Eric Goodwin, does that resonate a little bit about knowing your people and knowing how you can talk to them, who would be motivated, who would be receptive, and who you can kind of like, if you identify this person can really be talented, yet they're not giving their full talents, how do you go about it?
No, we definitely does. It resonates. Actually, we have a leadership meeting every single Monday, and we were just talking about that this week. There's some people that we know could much better than where they are right now, and they're where they're at, and that's where they're going to stay. Excuse me, sorry. Sometimes we have a saying that's you got to pull the bus over sometimes. So you got pulled over, ask people to change seats. Sometimes you ask them to get off the bus. It just happens. But no, it's always a work in progress.
Yep.
But what about those who don't want to change seats? Those are like, no, you're wrong. Like, I've got this. Sometimes it gets real difficult at those times, doesn't it?
It does. It gets difficult. But, sometimes in business, you're hurting an individual just as much as you're hurting the company by keeping them. Mm-hmm. We always try to work with everybody where we can, but it was mentioned earlier, it's about being receptive. Sometimes if you're not receptive to change, when people are trying to help you, then it just, we have to part ways. But a lot of times parting ways, we try to look at it, it's a benefit to both parties. Being in a leadership role, I've always been in a position where if somebody wants help, I'm going to help you go out and find something that's better for you. Just because if you're hitting a wall here, you're hitting a wall just because it's not a good fit most of the time. I think early on, all of us have those character traits where we can understand if somebody wants to do something good for themselves and wants to work hard. And sometimes you just have some people, like Tim just said, it's kind of innately built in you, and you know that really quick around people you're in.
Ms. Wu, Ms. Kobe Wu, I've got to ask this. You have built this company, and you have, you, as you said, you pivoted and found this. At the same time, each and every day, I'm guessing there's what's next. How do I expand this? How do I tighten this up? How do I improve this? What I'm trying to say is there's a constant need for action. Maybe it's in your brain until it's fully formed. But if you're just doing wash, rinse, repeat every day, you're not going to get many more W's after you've achieved the W, are you?
Not at all. Not in the least bit. It's interesting because I was listening to you guys talk about, team structure, support, all that kind of stuff. And you can, have people have a product and people like the product. They want to work on the product. They want to work at the company because the product is good. And then when you look at their skill sets, if they are, they could be talented. They could have a lot of charisma. They could be talkers, or they could be doers. They could be leaders. They can be managers, whatever the case may be. I think one of the things that when I'm looking at the product itself, and I know I need to iterate on that product, I know that the next stage or the next feature is coming out, and I'm looking around at the team to see if they're going to move with that change, because I'm making that move regardless of if the team is going to work with it. Is the team going to move, or are we going to have to pull the bus over and let somebody off and have somebody else on so that the product can do its best job, right? To live its best future. I think my son was trying out for a team, for a JV team. He's young, he's a freshman. And he said some of the seniors were there. And he was like, why were they there? They're on varsity. And I was like, oh dear, honey, they're looking to see if you're on JV this year, you might eventually be on the team with them. They're looking at the future, your future. Are you that person? Are you going to be a part of that mix? And it's something to it when we talk about iterating, when we talk about, building a product or a business, there's always that development, right? The next tier, the next feature, the next, the next, I don't know, whatever, what the Pro Bowl, whatever y'all do, in football. How are we going to get there, right? And is the team that we have today ready for that? And that's something that I'm constantly thinking about, I'm constantly thinking about, is the team that we have today going to be ready for what we have coming out next year? What do I have to do to add to that? What do I have to do to shake things out to make sure that the right team is moving forward? And sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, Kobe, are you the right person for this? Like, wait a minute, we're going big now. And you have to kind of think it through. Like, who do I need around me so that I keep my job? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's very real, and probably, for some folks, I'm not sure who is all going to be looking at this, but when you think about that, you have to think about what's best for the team, right? You have to think about what's best for the product of the team, and knowing that whatever's next, if you're on that path, can you contribute, and what level?
When you are thinking that through, am I the right person? Are you taking a 20? Are you taking a full time out while you discuss it?
It depends. Sometimes a little bit of both. It's, it's like I'm looking at today. We're looking at future, we're planning for Q1 and Q2, right? We've been doing that for the last couple months. So I know that there's going to be a massive growth spurt. I know that we have some shortcomings. How do we get there? What are those shortcomings that we need to do? Kobe, you're okay. You're pretty good at this. But you might need a couple more people around you to make sure that you are successful at what the things that you're setting the goals for. And they're very self-reflective. That took me, I'm able to articulate to you that to now, but that took me at the last, 7-10 days to be like, wait a minute, let's get a plan together, So yeah, I took a timeout and I took a 20, it's a function of, whatever it takes, and as long as we stay focused, I think that we can eventually get there.
Well, you may have taken those timeouts, but when the horn blew, you had a perfect set to run when you came back out on the court. So, Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, undrafted, worked your way through. We've heard that story. You're sitting here with Tim Brown, who was the first round pick and was the darling of it all. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. Yet you both got to the same place in terms of getting to the top level, maximizing your talents, giving everything that you have. How do you transmit that type of a message to everyone about the oldest? Now, where you start, it's what are you going to do to get to where you want to be?
Right. I think Kobe said it best. I mean, everybody's path is a little bit different, and you have to embrace the path that's been set out in front of you, and you can't be bitter or upset about what that looks like. For me, undrafted, and I guess a lot of times you got to be real with yourself. There's reasons why I went undrafted. I mean, to Tim's point, I was a guy in college that I didn't take it serious all the time, right? I had this life of duality where I showed up in practice as hard as I could, but then parties in the weekend, I was tearing myself down. So my hardest wasn't my personal best. It was just what I could give you based on how I was living life, right?
Hold a second. They party like that at Cal?
Oh, yeah, man. We got
if I'd known that.
Well, we took care of Stanford, though, easily 3 years. So,
if I'd known like that.
I say that to say this is that you have the losses in like the context, you have to make that shift and pivot as we've been talking about, or you'll continue to get the same results. If you don't make that shift and pivot, you will never ever be able to come and walk into your full being or become the best version of yourself and start collecting those W's to allow yourself to have a 15-year career or a 10-year career or whatever your ability allows you to be successful with. We all been gifted in purpose to do different things, and it's going to manifest itself differently in that process.
Mr. Michael Davis, as the CEO, I've learned a lot here about your alma mater, about how you guys do it. I wonder about myself now because in Knoxville, Tennessee, they didn't even let me in the parties. I was the guy they turned away at the door. I should have been doing a whole lot better. But let me ask you this: when Lorenzo and Kobe and everyone talk about, they take that time out here, but at the same time, knowing who you are, being real about the whole thing. Are you seeing that with these with people who come through your doors? How real are they with themselves, and how hard is it to get them to be real so you can see that growth and you can see that achievement get to come through?
Great question. I think that I see a lot of kids that they're not real, right? I think Zoe talked about before, this microwave type of theory. I want it now. I want to work for it. You see a Tim Brown, you get this instantaneous idea that I can just run down the field and catch a touchdown. Now I'm going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. I'm going to get all these things given to me without putting in the work. And I think there's obviously about the story of the grind, but I think this is very spiritual for me too. I think there's the element of, remember going back to Dr. Bob, and he used to sit down and pray with me. And he would pray not for the stuff to go away, the pain of losing, the pain of this frustration, but the resolve to go through the pain, right? To not quit. And I was like, Dr. Bob, I think that's the wrong prayer. I said, no, it's not right there. I don't want you to avoid this pain. You need to feel this pain to get to where you're getting to, because what I see here, what I think somebody said earlier, the wisdom that's there that you don't see, they may see for you, so you don't quit. That you have this success that's right there that you can't see, but they can see it. So if you quit now, you're never going to get to where they see you can get to. And I see that with a lot of different guys that we mentor, that it's instantaneous. I get a little taste of this pain and I want to stop and I want to quit. And it becomes a habit. And so they keep, every time they feel pain, it's reaction to quit. Not to pivot, not to work through it, not to build these character traits that I think is really the element or the foundation of being successful long term. But it's really built into, how do I stay and have the strength to keep going through the storm. Because at the end of this thing, like Kobe said, it's going to pivot. It's going to be a shiny day. It's going to be warm, right? It's going to be a good place for me to be when it's all said and done. So I think that's what I see at the end of the day is a real spiritual scenario for me. That God put us in this position to go through certain things, to feel certain things, to grow us closer to Him, to say ultimately you can't do this without me, and this is just my belief that ultimately I got you. That's the ultimate I got you, right? And so knowing that and understanding that, sometimes we got to be reminded of that process, and feeling that pain is just part of that deal.
Mr. Tim Brown, I'm going to throw to you, and then we're going to have to wrap up. And when we wrap up, I'm going to come to each of you for about 30 to 45 seconds for your final thoughts of the night. But before I get there, Tim, I've got two things. One, did you know they got down like that at Cal? I had no idea. This is a whole new thing for me. And the second thing is, you've done it all, quote unquote. What keeps you going, wanting W's every day, running your own company and all, when you could just be America's guest and tour around the country, and people be happy to have Tim Brown come to their place? Because I see how it works in this league when you are a Hall of Famer. You could just go and just be a professional guest, yet every day you wake up with wanting more W's.
Yeah, man, much received, much is required, brother, and I think that's what I live by. I've been blessed in many ways, going back to my parents being married for over 50 years. I have no excuse in, failing in my marriage, because I saw what my parents went through, and if they can make it through their tough times, we should certainly be able to make it through whatever we're going through. I had uncles who was a preacher, were pastors. I have a grandfather who was a pastor. My mom's a missionary in the church. So, I don't have any reason not to live right? So I have all these things in my life that say you should be able to get done whatever you want to get done. And then you go to a university like Notre Dame that doesn't party like that.
Okay.
I didn't party like that, but them boys showed up did party like that, no doubt. You leave that place, man, and you literally think you can conquer the world. You think that if you can spend 4 years in Northwest Indiana doing what you have to do there to survive, certainly whatever you run into once you're done, you should be able to handle that, man. So, I own a oil and gas company now. There's no other minorities in it. I mean, there's a brother who's up in Ohio doing something, but, for the most part, he's not trying to do what we're trying to do. So when I walk in these rooms, I'm the only one. Me and my people are the only ones of color in that room, you know what I mean? Because, we're trying to do something that hasn't been done before, but should be done because it's right there for it. So, so I think for me, my wife asks me all the time, bro, won't you just go coach? Won't you just go coach? I say, hey, look, you think I'm big now? You let me go coach. I'm going to be showing up, be a big old cat. And plus, you'll never see me. So look, I just feel, man, I've been, what's that?
Is that why she wants you to go coach?
I'm trying to figure that part out, so, but I know we're running out of time, but I'll just say this in closing. Hey, look, for me, I've been put in a position where I think, much received, much is required, like I said. And, if it's there for me, I'm going to go get it, man, because, starting a business, there were many L's, but now the W's are starting to pack up, and it's very meaningful.
I love it. And don't forget, when you walk into that room as the people of color, you know what color those people care about most? Green,
baby.
There we go. All right.
Green.
Let's wrap up. 30 seconds each, if that's okay. Mr. Goodwin, Mr. Eric Goodwin, give us 30 seconds on the way out the door, please.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Appreciate it. Just kind of like I said earlier, just right, challenge yourself, write your goals down, bottom off like you do that sandwich, one bite at a time. Go after it. Always ask for help. You don't have to do anything on your own, and just surround yourself with good people. Just make yourself better and strive to do that every day, and you're going to get there. It'll be all right.
I love it, Mr. Goodwin. I do my goals every year on New Year's Eve, and then I follow them and keep them together. So you and I are right there together on that one.
Right there with you.
Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, give us 30, please.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I heard tonight, establish your why, right? Because your why is going to carry you through the pain, through the losses. Even when you're successful, it's going to allow you to still look for what else can you become, what else can you do, and anchor yourself to something that's eternal. Obviously, Mike, myself, Tim, and maybe some other individuals are established in Christ, right? Do not get caught up into the fame and the money. That stuff comes and it goes. You want to be able to have you connect yourself with something that is there for life, relationships, Christ. And so that would be my, my parting words.
Mr. Brown, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think I'll just say, I don't care what you've been through. The fact of the matter is you're here. And if you're here, that means you have a chance. You got a chance to do something new. You have the chance to do something different. And that's what this thing is all about. We all go through things in our life. Some are bad and some are very good. But even when the good things happen, that's just an opportunity to grow even more. But certainly if you've gone through, things in your life, and this is some of the things I tell the kids, when we talk to some of these kids and they want to talk about everything they've gone through, if you're still here, you have a chance to start anew. And tomorrow is always the best day to do that.
Mr. Davis, you run this place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, this has been awesome. My words are just like, hey, it's a process. It's a journey. It's like Eric said, it's going to be not just a destination. You got to continue to go through this thing and really celebrate the short-term wins, right? Don't forget to celebrate that you won something, that you got past first base or got to second base. Every step is so important. So don't always compare yourself to this person, that person's journey. Your journey is very unique to you and your purpose, like Zoe was saying. And celebrate those wins. Celebrate, even if it's just a small little win, celebrate it. Do not take it for granted, because it's just a stepping stone for you to get to your greatness.
Ms. Kobe Wu, conclude for us, please.
First of all, I want to say thank you. I want to say every single one of y'all inspired me. I am overwhelmed. I love it. The thing I want to close with is this. And I might just be feeling like a mom right now because, I've got my little boy that's growing up and he has a lot of questions. One thing that I can note from all of us is that it's all about you, right? It's about you, which means that you have the answer. You have the goals. You're setting the intention. You're the one in control, and you're the one who can manifest your future, right? So don't be dissuaded by being told no, or being told that you can't make the team this year, or getting told, nah, I'm not funding you today. Just keep pushing, because you got the answer for the next step. And so that's something that I'm telling myself that tonight as well, because tomorrow is a new day. I'm gonna get back into it and keep pushing. So, just know that faith is in yourself, just as much. And if you have your values, you'll find the right decisions. You'll make the right choices along the way,
Outstanding. Well, if you find your little man coming to you and saying he wants to go to Cal, you got to find out exactly if he watches this tape or not, okay? You got to find out what the reasons are about why he wants to go to Cal. So find it.
Go Bears.
It sounds like, wow. Let me tell you, I'm going back to grad school and I'm applying to Cal. I'm just telling you. All right? Sorry, Knoxville. Sorry, UT. Cal. No, I'm just kidding. Well, thank each and every one of you. Appreciate you spending this time and giving us the benefits of your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom, and your successes. We appreciate it all very much. And we'll see you all next month when we come back for another town hall, because Michael Davis, it takes a village.
Absolutely.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.